So I think one of the #1 requests I think all of us had since the Zwift Ride was announced was something other than a 170mm crank. That was the size that it shipped with, and that's the only option that we've had until now. But today, Zwift is announcing a new bear claw style crank where you can actually choose your crank length. And I'll get into the details of their new crank here in just one second, but they're also announcing some pretty substantial updates to the companion app, which makes it much more than just a companion. You can actually track your fitness in the app as well. But as cyclists, well, we ride both indoors as well as outdoors, so fitness tracking wouldn't necessarily be all that useful if we were just tracking our Zwift rides. And that's the other side of the story today, is that they're also now introducing outdoor ride syncs directly into the Zwift app. Okay, so first though, let's talk about new changes with the companion app, where they've introduced fitness and goal tracking, where you can see your weekly and historical ride stats, including your distance, your riding week streak, where you're at with any goals that you're set, as well as your training score and training status. And training status is going to be very similar to other platforms' chronic training load, where that's going to be your training load for the current week. And then training status is going to be, again, very much similar to other platforms, where that's going to be comparing your chronic training load over the current week versus your longer term training load over the last 28 days or so. But where this kind of gets interesting is that as cyclists, well, we ride both indoors as well as outdoors, so it wouldn't really be all that useful to just be tracking our Zwift ride. So that's the other side of the story today, is that they're also announcing outdoor ride syncs with both Garmin as well as Wahoo, and then Hammerhead later this summer. And when you have one of these integrations enabled, it'll automatically import your outdoor rides into Zwift, and these will not only contribute to your fitness score, but also your training load. But they'll also feed into your weekly goals, your weekly streaks, and you'll even earn 5 XP points for every outdoor kilometer that you ride. And for how this works, all you have to do is have your Wahoo and or Garmin account connected to your Zwift account, which many of you may already have done, and your outdoor rides will then just be automatically pulled over and fed into your Zwift profile. And it'll actually pull in the last 90 days or so of your historical ride data, so your training status will actually be current once you have this integration. Now, if you don't happen to see your historical ride history in your Zwift profile, you may have to disconnect and then reconnect your Garmin and or Wahoo account, and that's actually what I had to do to make it work, but it just kind of synced over after just a few minutes. Now, if you're wondering why it's just Wahoo, Garmin, and Hammerhead and not necessarily something like Strava, well, I suspect that may have something to do with Strava's API rules, where it's kind of tricky to actually pull a user's data out. And the other question that you may have is, why do I need to track my fitness trends in Zwift when I already have something like a Garmin? And at that point, you'll probably use your Garmin as your primary device and your tracking tool. But at least the outdoor rides that you're recording in your Wahoo, Garmin, or your Hammerhead will feed into your weekly streaks as well as your XP points. But where this kind of gets interesting though is that Zwift is going to have your historical ride history as well as your training status, so I could probably foresee some sort of maybe adaptive training guidance coming like later on down the road. I don't really know, but that's where I see it going. Oh, and then lastly, unfortunately, you can't manually import an outdoor ride into the Zwift platform directly, but you can import a route into your Garmin, Wahoo, or Hammerhead account, and that'll then sync over. And then next up, there's also some updates on the actual game side of things, where they're introducing some heads-up updates where you can now see splits or laps as well as peak power for 5 seconds, 60 seconds, 5 minutes, as well as over 20 minutes. And that's actually part of the other update, is that they're also introducing a lap button to the action bar, so you can actually manually trigger laps. And then you'll also be able to configure your screen with different metrics now, so you can now see your left-right power balance, your average watts per kilogram, your average speed, weighted power, and then you'll also be able to see your core body temperature as well as your heat strain index if you're using a core body temperature sensor. And then for routes, they've also added 8 new cobbled sections to the France world, where you can experience the misery, I mean the spirit, of the Paris-Roubaix. But lastly, let's talk about the new update with the Zwift Ride, with arguably the most requested feature since it came out, and that's the ability to choose your crank length. So they now have a new customizable bear claw style crank arm upgrade kit, where you can upgrade your existing Zwift Ride and choose your crank length all the way from 175mm all the way down to 160mm. We haven't really gotten down to that 150mm crank length quite yet, but I think it should accommodate most of this. So this is an upgrade kit which runs $99, and then you'll install this on your existing Zwift Ride, and you'll basically need a handful of tools to do this. So you'll need a square taper crank arm removal tool, an 8mm Allen wrench, a small screwdriver, and then a torque wrench will also be ideal. And the entire process is pretty straightforward and should only take like 5 to 10 minutes to do so, but you'll basically just need to remove your pedals from your existing crank arms, then use a small screwdriver to remove the little plastic cover which covers the 8mm Allen bolt, then remove the Allen bolt, and the Allen bolt, by the way, on both sides is the standard lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. And then from there, you'll use the square taper crank arm removal tool to remove the cranks, and I basically recommend following the instructions on your specific tool, but you'll basically thread the tool into your crank arm completely, then turn the outer portion of the tool into the crank arm, which will then then remove the crank. And then from there, you'll just install the new adjustable crank arm. And the crank arms are specific, by the way, for the drive side as well as the non-drive side, and they are labeled. And then just crank down those 8mm Allen bolts down to like 40 Newton meters. And that's really where that torque wrench comes in handy to get the right torque. But basically 40 Newton meters is much more than you would put on like something like a pedal. Basically, you need to have it pretty darn tight. Now, they're only offering these cranks as an upgrade kit, and you can't currently choose these cranks as an option if you want to purchase a Zwift Ride brand new. The Zwift Ride will still come on the 170mm cranks, and then you have to purchase this upgrade kit after the fact. And that may just be an at the moment thing, but if there are any updates to that, I'll have those for you in the future. And yeah, some pretty interesting updates to Zwift. And if you have any questions about them that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to drop those down in the comment section down below. And if you found the information in this video to be useful, do me a favor and also hit that like button. And also subscribe to the channel for plenty more sports tech goodness that's right around the corner. In the meantime, happy riding, indoors or outdoors, and we'll see you in the next video. And that may just be an at the moment thing, but that's just the way it is right now, at least. Really?
Diz, what are you doing here, mate?
Oh, jeez.
You retreated. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's right.